Mingoose Mouse lives in a house. Where does Mingoose Mouse live? In a house. Mingoose Mouse. Bash and Woof Bang arrive. It began with a postcard. Not a beautiful postcard. Not even a particularly clean postcard. It was bent at one corner, stained with something that looked suspiciously like gravy, and addressed simply, Maribella. The forest. Somewhere near the portal. On the back were 6 words, "Put the kettle on, Uncle Bash." Mingoose Mouse read it twice. "Who's Uncle Bash?" Maribella smiled. "Oh dear." Semolina Pilchard looked up. "Why, oh dear?" "Because if Uncle Bash says put the kettle on, he's already on his way." A tremendous crash sounded somewhere beyond the trees. Then came a bark. "Woof!" A second crash. "Bang!" Then another bark. "Woof!" Semolina stared at Maribella. "Is that him?" "No." "Good. That'll be Woof Bang." There was another enormous bang. Maribella winced. "And that will probably be Uncle Bash." Everyone hurried towards the forest track. Round the corner came the strangest traveling contraption Mingoose had ever seen. It had wheels from an old cart, ropes from a ship, a brass bell, cooking pans, paintbrushes, a rolled-up canvas, bundles of herbs, and an enormous battered sea chest. Pulling the whole thing with one hand was a broad-shouldered man with thick, dark hair, braces over an old string vest, and a belt that looked as though it had traveled halfway around the world. Running ahead of him was a mostly white dog covered in bold splashes of color. The dog skidded to a halt. He looked at Mingoose. Mingoose looked at him. "Hello." "Woof!" The dog shot past her. "Woof Bang!" called the man. The dog vanished behind a bush. Bang! A frightened Franck and Bonk flew out of the other side. "Something exploded!" cried Franck. "It had ears!" shouted Bonk. The man laughed. "That'll be my dog." Maribella folded her arms. "Hello, Uncle Bash." Bash dropped the handle of the cart and opened his arms. "There she is." Maribella hugged him. "You took your time. I came the scenic way. You were supposed to arrive last spring." "Exactly. Scenic." Mingoose whispered to Semolina. "I like him." "You've known him 12 seconds." "I know." Bash looked around at everyone. "So, which one of you is in charge?" Mr. Hugh Lindwood stepped forward. "I suppose—" "Nobody," said Semolina. Mr. Lindwood looked at him. Bash laughed. "Perfect. Best sort of place." He reached into his pocket and produced a woodbine. Maribella immediately narrowed her eyes. "You're still smoking those horrible things?" Bash looked at the cigarette. "They haven't improved." "Then why smoke them?" "Habit." "Bad habit." "Correct." He lit it, took one puff, saw Maribella still staring at him, sighed, and put it out again. "You always were bossy." "You always needed it." Bash grinned. Then his nose lifted. He sniffed the air. "Right. Who's hungry?" Bear's paw went up immediately. Semolina's went up beside it. Then his other paw went up as well. "Excellent," said Bash. He opened the enormous sea chest. Everyone leaned forward. They expected treasure. Instead, it was full of food. Carrots, onions, potatoes, beans, apples, herbs, garlic, jars of spices, a lump of butter wrapped in paper. Puffed Chicken frowned. "That's it?" Bash looked offended. "That's it?" He held up a carrot. "This came out of the ground yesterday." He picked up an apple. "This came off a tree." Then he held up an onion. "And this little villain can make a grown sailor cry." Semolina nodded seriously. "I don't trust onions." "You shouldn't." Within minutes, Bash had built a small cooking fire. He rolled up his sleeves. Mingoose watched him chop vegetables. "You really know how to cook." "I know how to eat," said Bash. "Cooking came afterwards." Bear sat beside the pot, very close to the pot. Bash pushed him gently backwards with one enormous hand. "Patience. I'm a bear." "I noticed. I need a lot." "I noticed that too." Woof Bang appeared carrying something in his mouth. Bash looked down. "That's my paintbrush." Woof Bang wagged his tail. "Give it here." Woof Bang ran away. Bash sighed. He's an excellent dog. From somewhere behind the caravan came another crash. Just not at anything useful. The smell from the pot slowly filled the clearing. Even Mr. Lindwood wandered closer. What exactly are you making? Dinner. Yes, but what is it called? Dinner. Does it have a proper name? It will when I've tasted it. Bash stirred the pot. Semolina peered inside. There aren't any packets. No. No tins? No. No little things with 27 ingredients written on the back? Bash looked at him. If I need a scientist to explain my supper, I generally choose another supper. Maribella smiled. That sounds like Uncle Bash. Bash tasted the stew. Needs one more leaf. He reached into a bundle of herbs, chose exactly one leaf, and dropped it in. Mingoose laughed. Can one leaf really make a difference? Everything makes a difference. He tapped the side of the pot. Food especially. Bear sniffed deeply. How? Bash shrugged. Eat rubbish all day. You often feel like rubbish. Puff Chicken gasped. Finally, somebody sensible. Eat good things, Bash continued, and you give your body something useful to work with. Semolina looked worried. Does that mean no pudding? Bash stared at him. Of course not. Semolina relaxed. Good. Life without pudding would be ridiculous. I really like him, said Semolina. At last, Bash filled the bowls. Everyone gathered around. For a while there was complete silence. Then Bear looked into his empty bowl. More. Bash filled it again. Bear ate that too. More. Bash looked at Maribella. Does he always do this? Yes. Bash grinned. I think I've found my greatest challenge. Woof Bang suddenly charged through the clearing with the missing paintbrush. Frank chased Woof Bang. Bonk chased Frank. Semolina chased Bonk for no particular reason. Crash! Bash looked towards the noise, then calmly took another spoonful of stew. Mingoose smiled. Are you staying? Bash looked around the forest. At Maribella. At Bear licking his bowl. At Semolina running in the wrong direction. At Woof Bang disappearing underneath Mr. Lindwood's chair. And at his battered traveling cart, covered in memories from places far away. Well, he said, I've spent most of my life seeing what's over the next hill. He looked toward the trees. Maybe it's time I stayed somewhere long enough to find out what happens tomorrow. Maribella slipped her arm through his. Then you'll stay? Bash smiled. For a while. Bear appeared beside him holding his bowl. More? Bash stared at him. A short while. And from underneath Mr. Lindwood's chair came one enormous woof, followed immediately by bang. Mr. Lindwood closed his eyes. Bash grinned. Welcome to Woof Bang. And somehow, before the evening was over, it already felt as though both of them had always belonged in the forest.